Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming today to our event. So this event is brought to you by DataTalks.Club, which is a community of people who like to talk about data. So we have regular events like this one, and we have two types of events. So usually on Tuesday, we have more technical events with presentations like technical talks. And this week we had a talk about data versioning. Next week we will talk about model monitoring. Then we will, the topic is still not clear, but the week after we will probably talk about how you can deploy a chatbot. Like this is quite a complex system. So how do you do that? And in February, first Tuesday of February, we will talk about Feast, which is a feature store, like a special system from MLOps. And then we also have events like today, which are less technical. So there are no slides, just people talking. So there's less technical topics. Today we'll talk about writing, and then next Friday we will talk about this role of a developer advocate for data science. Then we will talk about open source, and it will be an unusual meeting. It will be on Thursday, not on Friday like usually. And then we will talk about MLOps, what is MLOps, and what MLOps engineers do. And then today, at any point of time, if you have any question, you can ask it through Slido. That will probably be the most convenient way. So you can just go there, put your question, or if you see a question that is similar to what you want to ask, you can just upload this question. And I will share this link now with you in chat. Okay, I share it. And just give me a moment. I'll pull my notes and we'll start. Okay. Yeah, so today we will talk about technical writing, blogging, documentation, all that. And we have a special guest today, Eugene Yan. And Eugene works at the intersection of machine learning and product. He likes building pragmatic machine learning systems. And he also writes and speaks about effective data science, machine learning in production, and career growth. And if you follow Eugene, you know that he writes a lot. Every week on his personal blog, there is a new article, sometimes even more than one. And naturally, it was very difficult for me to think of anyone else who is more suited for this podcast episode. So thank you, Eugene. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Alexei. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So before we go into our main topic of writing, let's start with your background. So could you tell us a bit about your journey so far, about your career, how you started, and all that?
Yeah, it's a bit of an unusual journey. So I graduated with a psych degree about 10 years ago. And I spent a few years working on investment policy. So I decided I didn't really like that. I was writing a lot of text, I was doing a lot of contracts and agreements, and I wanted to work more with data. So I took about 20 to 30 MOOCs and interviewed at a few places. And very luckily, I got accepted at IBM. So while I was at IBM, I did a competition on product classification. And then my team and I managed to get into the top 3%, and we happened to share about a TAM at a meetup. So then it happens that an e-commerce startup was facing a similar problem about how to categorize products correctly. And they had someone in the audience. So they invited me in for lunch and asked how I would solve the problem for them. You know, different languages in Vietnam and Indonesia and English. And the next day they offered me a job. And I was excited to experience how startup was like. I was pretty early in my career then, and I joined as their third data scientist. So that startup was Lazada. A few years later, Alibaba acquired us, and I moved on to a health tech startup. Unfortunately, that didn't work out very well. But so now here I am. I'm now an applied scientist at Amazon in Seattle. So I'm working on recommendation and machine learning systems right now.
So if anyone tells you that Kaggle is a waste of time, you're a living proof that it's not true, right? And
I was really
yeah,
lucky.
yeah.
I was
And
really
actually,
lucky.
there is an article about your career journey, right? And this is one of your most viewed one, right? From how is it called?
I'll post the link later. I'll find the
Yes.
link and I'll share it
Yeah,
later.
it's a pretty detailed career journey. Like that's an awesome read. I recommend everyone to go. Like pretty much every other article that you wrote. And yeah, since we talk about writing today, I'm curious, when did you start writing? And by writing, I mean like internal, not necessarily like technical documentation, because like when you just start your career, I guess you need to write a bit, but like something external, like blogging. When did you start doing that?
Yeah, so I'm looking at my at my site now, and my first post was from September 2015. So this was sort of a report for DataKind, which is an NGO that works on projects. So this was a project accelerator with a few NGOs that we were trying to help out. So, and why did I write that? They were just asking for volunteers to write, so I volunteered. Why did I volunteer? I'll admit that my reason for volunteering was not entirely altruistic. I volunteered because I wanted to practice writing. So now I know Alexei asked, when did I start writing? But I also want to answer the question of why did I start writing, which I think is a very important one. Um, so why did I want to volunteer and practice my writing? So back then, I interviewed data scientists and data science leads that I admired, some of them 2 to 3 steps ahead of me, similar to how I interviewed Alexei a few months ago for the Informal Mentors series.
Yeah, I'm not 2 or 3 steps ahead of you.
So the key question I asked them was, what skills do I need to be an effective data scientist? So was it domain expertise, ninja hacking skills, PhD level research, data pipelining? What was it? Um, the answer I got really surprised me. Anyone want to make a guess? I guess not. Everyone's too shy.
I can try. Business skills or
No,
dialect
they
writing?
said that all that could be learned, but the thing that really made someone on their team, someone they know really stand out, was the ability to communicate, the ability to write, the ability to speak with non-technical speakers, with that so that at least things could happen. So to be honest, when they first told me that, I thought they were just bullshitting. They were just kidding me. So, but then I just decided, okay, I asked them this. 80% of them say the same thing. I'm going to try it for 1 year. So for 1 year, anytime that people need something to be written, I'm going to do that. So I wrote that for a year. And in that same year, I also spoke at my very first meetup, which is about the Kaggle competition. And in that 1 year, so many good things happened to me. And I decided that, hey, I'm going to try this again for another year. And so that eventually became a habit. So I guess a long answer. I started writing about 5 years ago because people told me to write, because they said that this is important for you to be effective. And that's why I did it.
Yeah, and actually Ricky in chat wrote that communication, so he correctly
He got it.
answered. Yes, he got it. Um, yeah, and so this is, I guess, what keeps you motivated, right? Because I think it's pretty, like for me personally, like I know that writing is important, right? I know all these benefits that it can give me, or like all these connections. And every time I post something, like some people reach out to me and ask things, but still it's very difficult to because writing is difficult. It takes a lot of time, like it takes preparation, and sometimes like you even interview some people, right, to actually get material. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. So, and the reward is not immediate, right? So
Yeah.
you still need to put a lot of effort, and then you need to do this regularly. So what keeps you motivated, like this reward or something else?
That's a good question, actually. So at the end of 2020, I actually did some reflection. I went back through all my posts, and one thing really stood out. I was trying to ask myself, why is it that you write, Eugene? You need to understand your reason. So I realized that the main reason why I write is to share. For example, I would do my projects and I would share with people, this is how I clean the Amazon data. This is how I deploy an API. I also wrote about the classes that I took at the online masters of computer science at Georgia Tech. I wrote I wrote a summary for each class because a lot of people are asking me questions about which classes are good, which professors are good. So I wrote that. And when I attend conferences, and some of these conferences are expensive, so I wanted to share my notes as well. So I just write that and just put it there. And that was the one reason that, and it's a very satisfying reason, because when I share and other people find it helpful, it motivates me to write more. So thankfully, I happen to be motivated by this, and that continues me to write. But along the way, I also found other reasons to write. So and Alexia, you've mentioned about this before. Sometimes you think you know about something enough to write about it, and then when you actually write about it, you realize that you know nothing.
Yeah.
So that happens to me a lot. Like, you forget the details, and so I write to consolidate all these details and to fill the gaps. And that's another reason to write, to learn, to consolidate your knowledge. So recently I applied this technique to topics that I had some familiarity with, but I wanted to consolidate my knowledge, such as the survey on natural language processing, since RNNs up to Big Bird, and also on some topics that are new to me, such as the discovery on data discovery platforms, and also consolidating my knowledge and sharing about real-time recommendations. So by forcing myself to write, I was forcing myself to learn, and that's awesome. So I write to share, I write to learn, and I guess the very last reason, which is really awesome and is what is leading to this right now, is something really interesting happens when you write online. People start reaching out to you for feedback, to discuss ideas. They said, this is really useful, or this part could be improved. And some of these people I'm really inspired by. And I'm really humbled to have the chance to even have the chance to chat with these people, my idols that I admire online. And this is also what led to the current chat I'm having with Alexia right now, to share about writing online and to help people more. So the third reason why I write is to be a lighthouse. I'm saying this is what I'm interested about. If you're interested about this, I hope you talk to me about it. I hope to have a conversation about it, so we can mutually learn and mutually inspire each other. So I write to share, to learn, and to be a lighthouse.
Yeah, that's awesome. And actually now I remember the first time we spoke on Twitter, and my first question was, do you remember what I asked?
No, I can't. Did you reach out to me, or did I reach out to you?
I think I reached out to you. I
Oh.
actually asked, hey, what do you use for blogging? Because I also want to
Oh,
start my own
yeah.
blog.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what do you use? So that's
And by the
like you
way,
being a lighthouse.
maybe. By the way, if anyone's interested, I use a very simple Jekyll framework, and I just host it on GitHub pages.
So yeah, that's pretty amazing, and especially like learning part, I can 100% relate to that. Like I think, okay, this will take me 2 hours to write because I know everything. Then I sit down, and then like a week after, the post still not finished, right? Because like there are so many things I need to look up, especially if it's something technical, and things like frameworks evolve, they no longer work. But yeah, it also helps to learn a lot. And
Hi, Eugene.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat what did you say previously? You write to learn, to share, to what else?
To be a lighthouse, to find like-minded people.
To what? I'm sorry.
To be a beacon, to be a light bulb. I'm saying that, hey guys, I'm interested in this. If you're interested in as well, find me. To be a lighthouse. Yeah.
What is a big? I don't know this word. I'm sorry.
How do I say that? To be a broadcasting station. I'm sending out a
Okay.
signal. I like this. Come and talk to
Uh,
me about this.
perfect. Perfect explanation. Thank you.
You're welcome.
yeah, I'm curious to know, like, how you write. Like, now we understand the motivation, right? So, and this is awesome. I can totally relate to that. And but it's also interesting, how do you write? Like, yeah, you have an article about that, but I just want to hear it from you. Like, what is like? Do you have any process? Maybe like, how do you go about writing?
That's a good question. So Let me share with you how I went about writing the wrong way. So when I first started writing, I thought that, writing is sitting in front of a computer, typing it out, something beautiful will come out. It doesn't happen that way. And I thought that whatever I write must be 100% original. No one would have written about it. It must be 100% useful. And I realized that looking back on it, this is a very, very, very high bar. It's very difficult, made it very difficult for me to write. And so how I write, I realized is not to have that mindset, right? And so now my mindset is I write to share and everything, to share, to learn, to be a lighthouse. And I realized that writing doesn't start with writing. You start with reading things you're interested in, learning things you're interested in, and you think about it, and then you write notes. And now that I view it this way, my writing doesn't have to be original, it doesn't have to be perfect, it doesn't have to be 100% useful. It makes it a lot easier for me to write. So how do I write? Do you mean about how I select topics, or how I actually craft a post? What do you mean?
Yeah, like basically your process. Let's say you want to write about something, then you all of a sudden, I don't know, you're taking a walk, and then an idea occurs to you, or you see like a tweet about real-time machine learning in China, and then you think, okay, this is something I can write about. So now you have this idea, right? So you use, okay, I have some knowledge about this topic, I want to write, and what happens next after this?
So usually when I see a lot of all these topics, I'm just gonna put a title in my notes. I'm gonna say, hey, here's a possible topic. And right now my notes has like 50 topics that I just need to go through week by week to write about it and pick. So how I write it, my process is pretty straightforward. It starts from the timeline I set to myself. I set myself a timeline of 7 days. Every week, I aim to publish regardless of what state it's in. So I will ship every week. So starting from day one, I just pick a topic that I want to tackle. I write an outline of how I want to structure it. So for example, let's take real-time machine learning. I want to write about why you should not do real-time recommendations and why it would be useful. Then after that, how real-time recommendations look like, and then how to do an MVP yourself. So that's the big picture. And then I started to add bullet points. So that takes about 2 hours. Then day two, I look at that outline again and I rewrite it from memory. So all the crap, all the bad ideas go out, and the new ideas go in. And then maybe at day three, I look, if I'm okay at the outline, maybe I stop. Maybe if I'm not okay at day three, I do this again. So I do this several times on the outline section until I'm satisfied. So usually by the time it is a Saturday, which is day 6, when I have no more time to iterate on the outline, I'm forced to write the prose. So how writing the prose is just take the outline. Essentially, the outline is pretty detailed. Everything is there. I just need to write it in proper human language instead of just bullet points, so people can read it and find images. So by the end of day 6, I will always have a prose. Sometimes this takes 12 hours. Sometimes this takes 6 hours, but I will always have it. On day 7, after a night of sleep, I will read through it again, organize my ideas, organize the paragraphs, organize the sentences, find images, and all that. So by day 7, my time is up. I must publish it. I might still make, if people give me feedback, I might still make more tweaks on the next Monday and Tuesday, but usually after that, I stop. So the key part of this is the iteration. So I iterate on the outline. Why do I iterate on the outline? Because iterating on the prose takes too long for me. I care too much about the language, the sentence structure, the right words. So by forcing myself to only focus on the ideas on the outline, I improve it. And then I only leave very little time to iterate on the prose. So that's my process.
That's pretty interesting. So basically, like if you, let's say, look at the amount of time you spent writing an article, like how much time, let's say, you spent on this outline, like 50% or something like that?
It's definitely more. I would say that the outline is at least 50, sometimes 70%.
70%. So like the most of the time goes, like, and you said it's 5 days, right?
Yeah.
So most of the time goes to this outline, and that makes me really curious to know like how this outline looks like, because to me, like when I hear outline, it's just, I don't know, 3-4 bullet points. Yeah, so like how do you structure this outline?
I can show you.
Yeah, but like this will also be released as an episode without video. So maybe if you can just describe in word.
Okay. Yeah, so the outline really is the key section headers, and then for each section header, each paragraph, what should the key topic sentence of each paragraph be, and then maybe I have supporting evidence, etc. So that's it. So essentially, the outline is you can think of an at a later stages of the outline. The outline really becomes sort of like the actual content itself. It's just that it's not in paragraph form. And that makes it easier for me to write. I just force myself to write in bullet points instead of, the connecting structure like the but and the however and the although. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, you have all like the idea is already there. You already know what to write about. Like probably you have already sections, subsections, even paragraphs. Maybe you already have in that outline. And
Yes.
what you need to do on day 6 is just take these bullet points that you have and make them like translate them into normal natural language, like something
Exactly.
coherent.
Exactly.
Okay, makes all sense. Yeah, that's pretty interesting because it's not very similar to what I do. So I actually write prose, as you say, and then I have to, okay, like this too much, I need to delete it. And this is super ineffective and takes ages. And then also deleting things from an article is it's very difficult, right? I spent so much time writing this piece, and then I see that it's 20 minutes. I know that nobody is going to read this thing, right? Because it takes just too much time to read, and then I have to edit, I have to delete it, and that makes the writing process very difficult, right? And what you have, I think I should definitely try that.
Fully understand. Yeah, I recommend it. I have the same problem. Writing a paragraph just takes me 20-30 minutes, whereas writing bullet points is just so easy because I don't care. Right? I know I'm going to throw it away anyway. So
yeah, and this I'm also curious, like you said, that you try to reconstruct an outline from memory. Why do you do that?
so sometimes, okay, so let's say you read a book, right? And your friend asks you, what is that book about? You tell him the best parts, the most important parts, right? That's what reconstructing an outline from memory does. I remember only the best parts of my argument, the best parts of the story I'm trying to tell, and that's it. And sometimes after I reconstruct it, I will look at it side by side. Hey, did I really miss out any key evidence? If I couldn't quite remember it, maybe it's not important. So it's like reconstructing it from memory is like, putting it through a neural network. Only the important stuff filters through. And I do that several times. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting because yeah, I also have this problem that like I cannot simply rely on my memory. And I was going to ask you about that, but you also mentioned that you then still look back at the original thing and okay, did I forget anything? And how often you forgot things?
Quite often. I would always do a regression analysis. Like, hey, is this new one better than the old one? And it gets to a certain point in time, the difference is very small. That's when you can sort of start converting it to prose. Yeah.
Okay, so you do this every day. Every day you try to start from scratch, basically, from a blank page.
Not necessary. It depends. Okay, so there are some days where I can't finish the outline. So that would be when I continue. On the days where the previous day I complete an outline, and if I'm not satisfied with it yet, I would try to rewrite it. That's when. If I'm satisfied with it, I would just start writing my prose earlier, so I can have a bit of a break on the weekends.
Okay, yeah. Having a break is important, right? Especially if you spend that much time on writing.
Yeah. The problem, I can tell you the problem with me is I'm a very slow writer. I'm a very slow thinker. So that's why I need to spend a lot of time on it. I hope that if any of you here are trying to write, I hope that you won't have the same problem, but this is the problem that I have. That's why iterating through the outline helps me a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting because on this, like when you read a post and then you know that this person publishes every week, it's very difficult to, see this process, like all these all this work that the writer has to do, and then you say you're a slow writer, and then if I go to your blog and then I see the number of things you publish, that that makes it.
I mean, if you think about it, it's like 1 to 2 hours every weekday in the morning. That's like 7 hours. And then over the weekends, let's say it's like 13 hours plus another 5 hours for final editing. That's like 25 hours a week. So it does take a bit of time. Yeah.
And you also mentioned you have some list of topics, like as I understood, a list of ideas. You mentioned you have around 50, right?
Yeah.
How do you? I'm curious. Like even before that, like before you start writing, how do you like? You have some sort of backlog, let's say, right? And how do you put things on that backlog, and where do you take ideas from?
So a lot of times, when I look back at what I write, so when I see people are uncertain about such topics, for example, one thing that very clearly reminded me is whenever I share that my team runs on Scrum, we use Agile and Scrum, people always ask, how do you do that? How is it like? And I was like, okay, when enough people ask me about it, I'm going to write about it. People always ask me, how did you get from a psychology degree into data science? So many people ask about it. I just decided to write it. So I get a lot of questions. So I decided write it, and then it can scale indefinitely, right? That's one way. Sometimes I also write about topics I would like to disagree on. For example, I saw this Reddit post which had 10 different roles in data science: data scientist, decision scientist, product data scientist, AI engineer, ML engineer, AI product manager, all this. I disagreed. I think data scientists should be more end-to-end. And Alexei feels the same way. He thinks that data scientists should be more full stack. I don't think that's a good direction I was writing in. I thought what I was writing was an unpopular opinion, but Netflix and Stitch Fix adopts the same approach, but turned out to be surprisingly popular. Sometimes I also see people focusing on the wrong things. For example, a lot of my people reach out to me. They ask me, is coding important? Is writing that important? They say writing documentation takes a lot of time. I disagree. I think writing becomes more important in your career as you progress. Sometimes people ask me, what's the point of reading papers? I disagree. You need to read papers to keep up in your field. So I write to answer questions that people I have, and occasionally, if I may, I mean, once I've built up enough trust with the community, I disagree on something, and to try to share my differing opinion.
Okay, yeah, makes total sense. But you said you have. Sorry.
Eugene, can I ask a question? And because it kind of relates to what Alexei was asking. So you said you are kind of thinking about 50 topics, but then let's say you have to finish a topic in a week's time. How do you prioritize these 50 topics or n number of topics that you're thinking about?
Okay, so here's my trick. I realized that people that come to my site, right, they really like enjoying reading the machine learning stuff. But to be honest, guys, I can't write about machine learning every week. I'm really interested in it, but not to the extent of writing about it every week. So I would try to make sure that I write about machine learning once or twice a week. And then I add in some other stuff, which I think is really important. For example, next week, I want to write something about why you should not be doing online courses in 2021. Okay. I know it's very controversial, but I think Alexei and I talk a lot about this as well. And he probably knows the reason why I'm saying this. I want to write that to just tell people, guys, there's a better way to learn. Because a lot of people, when people talk to me, they ask me, is this course good? Is that course good? Should I do this master's? Yeah, so how I prioritize, to be honest, the only prioritization I have is at least 1 or 2 machine learning topics a month. The rest of the time is messages that I want to try to get across. I imagine writing for my teammates. I imagine writing for my mentees. What is my view that I want to share with them to help them be more effective data scientists? And this may not be related to machine learning at all sometimes.
So you basically have an image in your head of the target audience, right? Of the person who is going to read that. And do you use this somehow in your writing, like when you prepare this outline? How do you use it?
That's a great question. So I write mainly for 3 groups of people. The first person I write for is myself. When you write, you should write for yourself because let's be honest, no one's going to read it. If you write for yourself, you're going to benefit from it. The second person I write for is my wife. I hope to actually at least help her understand what is it I do. The third person I write for is my current team members, my future team members, my like-minded friends of community. So I'm going to assume that these are people with a bit of a technical background, maybe a bit of machine learning background, people who are driven to learn, to level up. So I sort of assume that. And, you know, sometimes some of the topics I write about don't get a lot of traction, not very popular, like the topic I wrote about the importance of writing versus coding. I think that's a very important topic, but it didn't get as much traction as I like. But maybe the community is not ready for it yet, but maybe sometime. So yes, I do have a specific group of people, my future teammates and my current teammates in my industry.
Okay. And sorry, I get a bit of a distraction. Yeah, the kindergartens are closed. Okay.
Can I ask a question in the meantime?
Yes, please.
Yes.
You have a very first of all, thanks for all the detail, and it resonates in a lot of respects. And you have a very organized workflow for reviewing the draft, reviewing the concept. And I was wondering, does it ever happen that there's some tipping point then editing it more makes your text worse? Sometimes like you know that you would have to release it, and you know that the extra time spent on editing or drafting would just make things worse, or it's always kind of linear. So do you see any non-linearities in your writing process?
That's a good question. So let me answer when is the tipping point. The tipping point is usually Sunday night. I would love to edit it past Sunday night, but I can't. I must release it by Sunday night. So do further iterations make it worse? Yes. Further iterations can make it worse. That's why when I iterate on outlines, I always compare them side by side. Which one communicates my story, the message I'm trying to get across better. When I'm editing paragraphs, I would just type a new paragraph above the old paragraph. I compare 2 paragraphs. Usually my metric for success, is it shorter and conveys all the key ideas? If it is, yes. If it's longer and it gets a bit more messed up, it's a bit harder to write, that's when you know it's worse and you delete it. So it can regress. It can regress, and you should always try to do some sort of regression analysis to just check, is it better?
Okay. This is what you mean by regression analysis. I was going to ask that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If it has to do anything with linear regression.
No. Yeah, it's like testing regression. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So do you also see your result as a product?
Oh, yes.
Like design, product life, end life, versioning.
Yeah, I do. I imagine everything I write is like a small package of love. So when I write about stuff, I really want to help people understand about it. If they don't understand about it, then I failed. So that means my product UX is bad. If I write about a product and the substance is not there, it's not useful, that means the backend is bad. So it's very difficult. And I don't think I will ever get there. But the way for me to do this is to just force myself to write every week. And every week there'll be 50 iterations, or rather 50 different products, and I will have gotten enough practice. Maybe in 5-10 years, I will be good enough. I don't know.
5-10 years. Like if now your articles are that good, like what will happen in 5-10 years?
In 5-10 years, I can write the same thing in 5 hours instead of 20.
Yeah. Do you somehow try to control the length? Because for me personally, this is a problem, because like I have this idea, but to actually elaborate this idea, like it takes just too much space. Like I need too many pages. And then I know that people with the attention span we have today, like people will not read this. How do you like, first of all, is this a problem for you? And if it is, like, how do you overcome this?
This is an interesting question. So I've read And a lot of people have told me that the ideal length for an article is about 1,500 words. That's about 10 minutes, and that's the average attention span of you can get from reading online. But honestly, before this, and even right now, after this, I don't really think about it. I want to write just enough to communicate the substance and the content and the message across. Sometimes this is just 600 words or 1,000. And if that's it, perfect. Sometimes I need to go into 4,000 words, 5,000 words, like the one about the recent one about real-time recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that if I cut out anything, if I cut out any paragraph, it loses the big picture. And that's fine. Because the assumption is this, I assume that my audience are people like me, my future team members, my current team members, people who want to learn about real-time recommendations. I assume that they are already highly interested in it and they will read it. And I don't expect them to read it all at once. They can read it, refer to it anytime. But to be honest, I don't have a maximum length. Yeah.
Okay.
I just try to keep it as short as I can because it's also courtesy on the reader's time.
And I guess having this deadline of 1 week helps not to, not to put too much information there.
Yes, definitely.
And for me, one of the most difficult parts is like, let's say I already finished writing something. How do you call this thing? Like, how do you come up with the title? Or maybe you even do this before you start writing. Or how does the process look for you when you come up with the title?
That's a good question. I name my blog posts how I would name my functions in the easiest way that no one would misunderstand. So this is a difficult thing, which I'm still trying to learn. And I just try to come up with the sentence that explains what this is about. It's just like how you write documentation, how you write code. However, I've heard that there are other things to consider, such as SEO or how to get people to click on your title more. But usually, by the time it's Sunday night, I'm publishing it, I just don't have the energy to think about a title anymore, honestly speaking. So I don't put a lot of effort into that.
Yeah, because like when we were planning this event, I was talking to Eugene, and then I said, like, I want to call the event blogging and technical writing. But then you said, no, like this title, you didn't say that it's boring, but you said, okay, like you should write it, the importance of writing in a tech career. And then that sounds much, much better than what I suggested. Like it's a sort of, it's not just the essence, because I think like blogging and technical writing also capture the essence, right? But this is, you made it sound so much more interesting, right? And we can see that, like if we look at the number of people who registered for this event, like that, like this is more than usual. So you really nailed the. Probably it's the title also. Probably it did play the role, but yeah, like do you
Thank you.
always? Yeah, but you. Yes,
I
sorry.
wanted to try to explain why I name it that way. So when Alexei first reached out to me for this, I was like, hey, this is a great opportunity to get people to write more. And how do I get people to write more? I say it's important. And this is, of course, a very specific audience, right? In a tech career. And, tech people are very focused about their careers. So guys, this is important. I want you to write more. So listen to me. I'm going to talk about why writing is important in a tech career. Hopefully, I convince you to start writing and practicing. And that's why that's the essence of the title.
Yeah, that makes sense. You again keep the audience in mind when coming. And let's say you convinced now, we have right now 34 people, and you convinced now everybody on this call to start writing, right? And what do they do next? So now they understand, okay, writing is important. I want to write more. What do I do next? Like, how do I start blogging?
Just start writing. I know it's a very not a very good answer, but okay, let me share. People, these are the questions I ask people to start writing, and then these are how they respond. Oh, they say, oh, I'm afraid of writing online. If I write about this, it's just a summary of articles, it's just a book summary. Will it be useful? Will it be worthy of writing online? I mean, I'm gonna share with you a pretty brutal truth. And in the sense that your first article, no one is going to read it. So just like they say, dance like nobody's watching, write like nobody's reading. It doesn't matter. You're writing for yourself, to practice for yourself. Just write. Second, what to write about. A lot of people ask about this as well. Write about what you're thinking about now. Write about what's on your mind, what keeps you up at night. It doesn't have to be related to your career. It could be about gardening. It could be about, I don't know, recipes. It doesn't matter. Just write. So some people say, oh, I need to find my topic, my team to write about, right? And I'll share with you about this example of Patrick McKinsey. I don't know if you know him. He goes by Patio11 on Twitter. So for years, he just wrote about what's on his mind. I think compilers or Ruby or Java, whatever happening in Japan. But after he looked back, and he's written about 500 over pieces. After he looked back, after several years, he found that the things he wrote that's at the intersection of engineering and marketing were really resonated with his audience. And that's how he found his team. But it took him several pieces and 1 or 2 years to figure that out. It's just the same way. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. It's only after you've written a lot, then you realize, you look back, hey, what is your motivation? What are the topics that you sort of write about? And then it happens. So it's going to be a long-term process.
Okay, and one recommendation I often see on the internet in blog posts is like, first you need to find your niche, then I don't know, blah blah blah. So just what you're saying is, don't care about this, finding your niche, just whatever is on your mind, just go sit on your computer and start writing.
I would say that it's useful to find your niche, but you won't find your niche before you write a lot. And that's where you find your niche, right? So it's sort of a circular thing. They don't say that you first find you write a lot, then you find your niche, but after you write a lot, then you reflect back. That's where you see your niches.
But then also writing about the same thing over and over again is pretty boring, right? Like you.
Exactly. So that means I can't write about machine learning every single week, right?
Yeah.
I'm interested in it, but I have other interests too that are important, like about career, about data science processes. So I try to write about that. So I haven't found my topic of focus yet. And that's fine because I'm just writing for myself. And my topic of focus is whatever Eugene is thinking about. That's it.
And what tool specifically would you recommend to use? Like, should it be Medium? Should it be WordPress? Should it be Jekyll? Like, what would you recommend?
For this, I recommend whatever is easy for you to use. A lot of people spend too much time. Oh, I need to find the perfect domain. I need to have the perfect Hugo or Gatsby or Jekyll setup. It needs to be CI/CD. Come on, guys. The time that you spend on that, just spend it on writing. So just pick whatever's the least amount of work. Writing is already really difficult. Remove all the excess work and just focus on writing. So honestly, when I started, I used WordPress. It was really easy and just write in it. It got to a certain point in time where I wanted to customize my theme and WordPress didn't allow me to do that. That's why I switched to hosting my new site. But by then I already written like 50, 60. So the tool is the least of your concern. Just write and just push it online. Substack, WordPress, Medium, whatever reduces your barriers to entry.
I think Medium is pretty easy. Like, you don't need to do much there. Just get an account and start writing, right? With
Exactly.
WordPress, it might require some setup, right? But with Medium,
Yep.
And so we have a question. The question is, I assume you're busy. How do you schedule and prioritize this writing work into your daily routine?
Yeah, well, I am busy, but I guess so let me share a bit. In 2017 to 2019, I was doing an online master's of computer science. So at that time, I was spending 20 to 40 hours a week on that online master's while I was working part-time. So after I graduated from that, suddenly I had a lot of time. So that's when I decided, okay, I need to pour this energy somewhere else. And I decided to pour it into writing. So it's 1 to 2 hours, 1 to 2 hours a day, early in the morning. It's just the same thing as exercise. as meditation. It's just a daily habit. And then also maybe on my Saturday is just hammering out the pros, and Sunday is just trying to edit a bit. So I do make time to go out, and I thankfully have a very understanding wife. But I think it's possible, and you don't have to spend so much time. You can just write short snippets, maybe 500 words. Just start small. Start with whatever you're comfortable with.
Tweet,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, just tweet.
But actually, tweets are even more difficult, right? Because of the limitation you have, or you have to use threads, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so by the way, speaking of Twitter, like yesterday, I posted a tweet saying that you will tell us the secret sauce of writing. So what is your secret sauce?
I have no secret sauce. Honestly, when I woke up today and I saw Alex, and I was like, crap, I have no secret sauce.
Sorry.
But I hope I have been completely transparent and honest enough, and that maybe the outline iteration approach is my secret sauce. I don't know. It's something that I hear from you that this is something new. But yeah, I don't have a secret sauce really.
Yeah, because we have a question like, how did you make your blog popular? So what did you do to attract people so they go and read and then get in touch with you?
I don't know. I wish I had the answer to that so I could repeat it, but I would write there, and then I would write a tweet about it, and then I would copy that same tweet and post it on LinkedIn. And that's it. And people who saw it would maybe circulate it, and that's it. That's my only distribution channel, because it's already so much effort to just compose tweets, right? I'm just gonna write 200 characters and just post it there, and that's it. And eventually I sort of find like-minded people who just read my stuff. And I didn't really put a lot of effort into that, honestly. And I don't think it's very popular, but I'm at least thankful that I can find people who have the same interests that can engage with me on that.
Well, you're saying not popular, but how many times did you end up on the first page of Hacker News?
I can't remember, honestly, but
yeah, so many times.
Hacker News is a completely different thing. Hacker News really likes disagreements. I think my post was like, stop taking regular notes, right? Like stop taking notes, use a Zettelkasten instead. And people are debating about it. Oh, this Zettelkasten is a new fad, and that's why. So Hacker News is a completely different thing.
Yeah, but I think it wasn't just one post that ended up there. That also your post about this, like the data science should be more end-to-end, right? I think it also ended up there, no? But at least it got a lot of attention, I think, this article. So basically, the secret sauce is disagreement, right? So find what people disagree about, and then
it could be. And I think maybe now that I think about it, that the real secret sauce is that through a lot of darts. I think last year I shot 55 arrows, and 3 of them hit the mark. So my hit rate is about, I don't know, 2.5%. So if you shoot a lot, things happen.
So basically consistency, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and we also wanted to talk today about not just writing for, let's say, external audience for the internet, but also internal, like at work. And this is also an important part, right, for your career. We are not just writing code for entire day, right? So we also need to communicate with other people, and writing is a form of communication, right? So, and when we write documentation, right, we always need to think about the reader. So it's not just, an afterthought, right? So what do you think about writing at work? Like, why is it important, and how you should go about doing that?
So why is writing at work important? Well, that's a very difficult that's a very big question to answer.
So let's say why a project should need why does a project need documentation?
So let me share it this way. Before you start a project, you sort of need to socialize your idea and check your idea with other people. So let's just take a document that Amazon is very famous for. It's called the press release.
Mhm.
Before we start a project, we would write a press release. And maybe the press release for Amazon S3 is like, hey, highly scalable, I don't know, storage at a very cheap price. And we send it out internally. Are people excited about this? If people are excited about this, hey, maybe this product could work. And this is before we even do any coding.
Mhm.
So we first do this to test the audience, to check with the audience, right? And this is how the same thing, you test the audience, you test your users. And after you decide to write it, if the press release document works well, then maybe you write something called the design document. I know software engineers are very familiar with this, but the design doc is essentially, hey, let's just say I'm going to write the design document for real-time recommendations, how I would train the model, how I would serve the model, what are my business and technical requirements in terms of latency, in terms of throughput, in terms of cost. I would write that, and again, I would circulate that. So this gives you, writing at work gives you a way to test your ideas at scale before writing any code. So that's really powerful, right? You test it from the customer perspective. Is the idea exciting? Then you test it from the implementation. Is it useful? Is it possible? You're going to check it with your principal engineers, your fellow engineers, and make sure it works. And documentation, right? I mean, so Alexei mentioned about documentation. I mean, for me, personally, I'm a very forgetful guy. If I write some code, 6 months later, I look at it, I would definitely forget it. And I would be looking at my code and be thinking, what is this idiot Eugene writing about? And why did he implement it this way? So documenting my code is like me in the past sending to myself, hey, you might think this is really stupid, but here's the reason for this, because the data before this date is like this, or because this is the only way, this is the way I had to optimize the code so it meet the latency requirements, and this is what it does. Documenting your code does that. Similarly, documenting your projects. Why did we decide to go with, I don't know, DynamoDB instead of Redis? What's the pros and cons of each? What's the decision log? Why did we decide to go with Flink instead of Spark? So all this. I mean, at least you would have done the research for this. It will all be in your head, but you want to write it down so that you remember, and you want to write it down to share the knowledge with your friends. So I hope that answers the question. But okay, you write at work. Writing is important at work to test your ideas through a press release, test your ideas through the design doc, whether you fly. You document at work. You document your stuff so that the knowledge is not lost, and you scale the knowledge more effectively.
Mhm. And then also, like you said, you write for your future self, right? Because you tend to forget things, and this is that also resonates with me because like I know that if I do this sequence of command line commands, right, like terminal commands, I know that in a few days I will forget them.
Exactly.
Right? And I need to write them down. So next time I need to execute the same, like do the same thing. I have a reference and I just can copy paste things. I also wanted to ask you, like you mentioned, like this press release and then design document. Is it something that I think in Amazon is called working backwards? Is it that thing? So like,
yeah,
how does it work? Like this working backwards process. What is it?
The press release is part of the working backwards process. So the working backwards process is not exactly a secret. I mean, it's online. So essentially, working backwards is what it is. We work backwards from the customer. And that's the right way to work, right? So it means that we try to understand what the customer problem is, what the customer potential demand is, and we work backwards from it. The other way of doing this is, we build it and people will use it because what we built is so awesome. But, often that doesn't work. So that's the working backwards process. And Alexa, you talk about this a lot. First do some research. What is the problem customer has before we even train a model to try to solve that problem? If that's not a problem, or if the potential effort save or the cost save or the potential revenue is too minor, we shouldn't do an effort for that, right? So we work backwards. So the press release in the working backwards process helps us to solidify our idea around something single. So in the S3, approach is we want to provide highly scalable, low latency, low cost. And so the team is going to build around that. So I think for Alexa, initially the press release was something like, I don't know, you can start music with your voice command. Initially, it was just that, starting music via voice. But and over time, of course, it has been very popular, and it has grown and grown, such that you can shop for groceries, you can ask questions, you can control lighting. But the press release, the first one, is just test the market. Are people interested in it? Are internal stakeholders interested in it? Are your VPs, are your directors interested in it to channel resources into this research? If it does, that is important.
Yeah, makes sense. And writing is an important part of this process, right?
Yeah. So I think interesting. I'm sure everyone knows. Most people know that Amazon doesn't have slides. We don't use PowerPoint, at least most of the time. So we write in a document, and that makes it very easy to scale, right? To share something, you don't need to be there to present for half an hour. You can just send them the document and they can just read it. So it really saves a lot of time on the person. Of course, writing that document takes a lot of time. But once you have written it, it's upfront cost that you almost never have to repeat again. Unlike a presentation, you always have to be there to present, or you could video yourself. I don't know, but I can tell you this document writing process is very useful, and it will follow me wherever I go. I will adopt this same practice.
And I think we still have a bit of time, and I have another question for you. And remember, you can ask questions in Slido. We still have time for a couple of questions, I guess. So what I want to ask you is writing for portfolio. So let's say you did an awesome project. Let's say it was a Kaggle competition. You finished in, I don't know, top 20, top 30, like with a medal, and you want to put all your code to GitHub. What do you do? What do you need to put in README so people can immediately see the value of this thing?
So let's think about it. Let's say I'm searching on GitHub, right, for, I don't know, solution to, I don't know, something, some Kaggle competition. And what would I find? I would find hundreds of repos on that Kaggle competition. So so right now I'm thinking, what would distinguish one repository from another? I think clearly a README is useful. A README that says how to start using this code, how to quick start, how to install this code. If it has a requirements, that would be really useful. And maybe it explains you through the big processes. The data prep step is in this folder, the machine learning step is in this folder, the validation step is in this folder. So I think a basic README that sort of explains it, that would be good enough. So now if you're thinking of it from I don't know, building a portfolio to get a job perspective, now think of it from the manager's point of view.
Okay.
Clearly, I mean, if they're going to hire you, you're definitely going to be able to write code, clearly. But the question is, are you able to document code and share about it, like what we spoke about? When they read your code, does the documentation make sense? When they read your README, does it make sense? Do you explain it well enough that they feel confident that you can do the same thing at work? So I think that's something that would be helpful.
Am I audible? I think
Yeah,
connection.
you're audible.
Was...
I can hear you. Yeah, but I can see the connection is a bit choppy.
Hi. Am I here?
Yes, you're here. Uh-oh.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess actually now we're already like it's already 6 p.m. here, so it means we finished. So maybe you have any last words?
No, not really. Oh, I do have one. If I had to share about it, I'm gonna paste a link in the chat. So for those of you who are regular readers on my site, please go to that link and tell me what you would like. What can I write that will be useful for you? So I'm always trying to figure out what my audience wants. So this is a topic poll. There are a few topics there already. You can just thumbs up, thumbs down. Or if there's a new topic that you want to propose that you don't know, you can just share it there. That's it.
Hey, question again, Alexei. May I ask him?
Yes,
please.
sure.
Okay. Why some LinkedIn profiles I can ask for a connection, because I tried to ask your connection, and one of the things is I should say why I'm trying to connect you. Second, the second option was follow your content, but usually when I like the content person, I prefer ask a connection than just follow. And what's the main difference in between these two things?
So that's a good question. I guess for me, what I do is on LinkedIn, you can sort of set your default to so the default is connect, but I set it to follow because the connections just keep building up and it just gets a lot. However, if you click the plus sign, there's a small plus button. You can click on it, and the ability to connect is still there. Yeah.
Yeah, but my question, you didn't answer me. What's the main difference in between follow a person then ask a connection?
So following a person is just like Twitter. You would follow that person, but the person wouldn't follow you. A connection is a two-way follow. It's a bidirectional, and you would have a connection to show that you're actually friends.
Okay. Are there more questions? Yeah, I guess since we're running out of time and probably you need to go. So thanks a lot for coming today, for sharing your knowledge with us, and for sharing also your secret sauce. I think like what you shared with us definitely deserves this name. So now I know, like next time I'll try to follow your process and see what happens. And I think it will be a lot better than what I previously wrote.
Thank you. I hope so as well. Thanks, Alexei. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Goodbye.
Hey, Alexei, could you also send me the video or clip after this so I could sort of write a transcript?